Yo, yo, yo! What is up, everyone, and welcome to the CT Gaming Lab. Today, I want to go over my first impressions of Beast of Reincarnation, which just released a few days ago as of the making of this video. For those of you who don't know what this game is, Beast of Reincarnation is an action RPG made by Game Freak, the company that is best known for making Pokemon games. I guess they decided to dip their toes in something a little different, and so far with my experience with the game, it seems like they have the spirit, but it may take some lessons learned and applied to really make a standout impression in a new genre outside of their comfort zone. So let's jump right into the beginning of the game. Before we get really into it, I will state that there will be minor spoilers up to the first main boss fight, or what I would consider Act 1 of the game. So there's a really short intro sequence where you're running up a hill, you're given a basic combat and movement tutorial, then thrown into the action. You fight off a few enemies, get a taste of the combat, and you come face to face with someone who is probably a boss later in the game. Then you're kicked into a cutscene and transported back in time to, I guess, learn about what exactly has happened in the story to bring us to this point. Right off the bat here, my initial thought was, what the heck just happened? I know I sped through the intro there, and that was on purpose, so that you get the feeling that I had when playing the intro. That intro was so random, and now I feel like we're still not starting quite at the beginning because I have no idea who my character is, who this violet ghost girl that talks in my head, and who really anybody is. I figured, let's just stick with the story and see where it goes. Based on the short conversation we have with characters with no known identity, we figure out that I have to go hunt something down called a Nushi. Once the game gave me control of Emma, our protagonist, I fiddled around with the UI a bit, took a look at the literal skill tree, and took note of my inventory. So far, nothing was really out of the ordinary for fans of third-person action RPGs. After that, I spent about an hour exploring the game world, fighting some enemies, dying, and finding the NPCs I needed to talk to that had information on my target. Shortly after, I proceeded to hunt said target, who I now learned is a giant deer called Rangifer. This led to my first semi-boss fight. And I say semi-boss fight because it was so easy, I beat it on my first try, and it ran away after I beat it. Spoiler alert, I fight it again later, and that's what I would call the end of Act 1 and the first official boss fight. I have a video on the channel that includes this fight and the final one if you guys are interested in checking that out. So after beating Rangifer the first time, Emma is called back to home base, which is a giant robot, and that's where we meet this Brad guy who we don't know who or what he is. We also see this sleeping girl called Kagura, who we also don't know. Back at home base, there is a station for upgrading gear. You're able to upgrade your melee and ranged weapons, as well as the ammo type for your ranged weapons. Upgrades seem to be fairly standard stat boost, with some swords showing bonus effects when you max them out. There's also a station for leveling up and applying attribute points, as well as accessing your skill tree. Upgrading your gear and your character are both functions that you can perform outside of the base at resting checkpoints called camps scattered around the map. Later in the game, you unlock more features in your robot walker, such as growing plants and raising animals. And oh yeah, I almost forgot, you can shower with your dog Ku. You can also pet him, and later when you learn to cook, you can feed him. Speaking of Ku, this is the point of the story where we go back even further in time to another flashback. So as a reminder, we are already back in time from the intro sequence in the game, and we are going back in time again to learn about how we found our dog.
Ku, お前はここにずっといる。あの時から。
We see Emma holed up in some shack sleeping, and she is rudely woken up by a peaceful robot and a girl that we later find out is Kagura. The robot is from a nearby city of humans and robots that rely on Emma to eliminate threats for them. These threats include the Malefic monster-like creatures, as well as robots that have gone insane. The robot and Kagura have come to request Emma to hunt down 2 known threats in the forest, to which she spiritlessly agrees to do. It's at this point in the game where I started questioning some of the pacing and design decisions with the game. I want to quickly point out that up to this point in the game, I wasn't having a bad time with it at all. In fact, I would argue that for the first 2 or so hours it took for me to get here, it had been pretty fun. Not perfect, but it was still enjoyable. The music was relaxing, the combat, while not as impactful as I like, was still fun. But at this point, I felt like there was a clear disconnect between storytelling and gameplay. Like I just mentioned, I had been playing for 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half at this point. I had already fought my first semi-boss fight and explored a decent part of the starting area. So now in this flashback, the game prompts new tutorials showing me I can crouch, stealth attack enemies, and perfect dodge. I feel like a lot of players at this point in the game would have already figured out they can do all those things. For me, this was where I was questioning the game and wondering if they should have just started in this flashback and told the story in chronological order. Anyway, moving on, the purpose of this flashback is to see how Emma met Ku. So after getting some tutorials, we get a cutscene of Emma and Ku's first interaction. They stand off, we see that Ku is injured, and then ultimately Emma takes Ku back to her shack to help him heal. She goes to sleep and then awakens to find him gone, and a flashback. We cut back to present-ish time. We now get a tutorial on how petting Ku increases your rapport with him. Yay! Afterwards, Emma goes to sleep on the walker, and we begin our next day of hunting down and finishing the big deer Malefact, Rangifer.
主を倒す方法は
わからん。
何でもいい。情報が欲しい。
そうだ。奴らは火を見ると怒っているようにも見えた。
As this is a first impressions video, I'll just quickly go over the next couple hours of game time. Basically, I explored what I consider to be most of the map, found a bunch of friendly NPCs, loot, new gear, fought some elite enemies, and eventually found all of the keys I needed to unlock a door that leads to the final Ragnafer fight. Once I assembled all the keys, Emma is called back to the walker again because Kagura finally woke up. Upon arriving back at the walker, it was time for another, you guessed it, flashback in time. This time, the flashback is to show us how Kagura became a part of our troupe. In this flashback, we also get to see the city that Emma lives near. It is inhabited by regular humans and by robots who used to be humans, but moved their souls into inanimate objects in order to try to eliminate their emotions, seeking only logical thought. Emma is very obviously treated like an outcast, although at this point we don't really know why, other than the fact that she has flowers in her hair and supposedly absorbs the stains of the souls from the creatures she defeats. If that sounds random, it's because it is, and that's how I felt playing through the game. Admittedly, I'm only slightly exaggerating. Anyway, while Emma is in the city, she is trying to sell a fruit she found, and eventually we meet up with Kagura, who we discover is an orphan who was bought by a robot golem. After Kagura gets slapped in the face, Emma tries to make her feel better by offering her the fruit. It gets declined, and then Emma goes home. Oh yeah, so I haven't mentioned it really up to this point in the video, but this whole time there's been this ghost girl called Violet that only Emma can talk to, and we have no idea who she is. She's kind of like a companion to Emma and helps her make emotional decisions, because Emma allegedly doesn't have any emotion. That's all we really got now for Violet.
また違ったみたい。
また？
あの白い腐食体も去っていった。
そうじゃな。じゃが期待した行動ではないからといって間違いとは言い切れんよ。
そう。
さあ、今日はもう帰ろう。
Anyway, back to the flashback, Emma gets called to come back to the city, and this time it's because the ruler of the lands, so to speak, is giving her a decree to find and hunt down the Beast of Reincarnation. Finally, we learn what the game is all about, the name of the game. The Beast of Reincarnation is a magical beast that cannot be permanently slain and comes back to try to destroy humanity every 100 years. Emma is the one who is tasked with defeating it and all of its underlings called the Nushi. Rangifer, the deer boss, is one of them. After the decree is read, a powerful roar is heard and a giant lion plant creature leaps into the center of the city. First off, this was absolutely ludicrous when I first saw it. This thing is not that big, and it somehow jumped over like a 10-story wall from God knows where and landed in the center of the entire city. Like, yeah, okay, buddy. Anyway, I guess Kagura was standing nearby, and Emma tries to run away with her until eventually we are forced into a fight. But before the official fight, Emma gets injured while running, and Ku comes to save the day. This led to yet another kind of random moment. He saves Emma's life somehow by doing some avatar, hair, tail, plant connection. Honestly, this was not that far-fetched. I had a feeling this was going to be a thing, but I still found it kind of funny. Anyway, we fight the boss to a stalemate, and then Brad appears out of nowhere and tells Emma to escape with him. And that's how our happy little family came together. As they are leaving the burning city, the guy in a straw hat from the intro sequence pops up, and we still don't know who this guy is. To be fair though, at this point in the story, the straw hat guy is the only character I've been okay with not knowing anything about. And that's the end of the Kagura flashback. Back to the present, Kagura just woke up, and Brad tells her she can stay as long as she cooks and cleans, and this is where you unlock the ability to cook meals and eat together. So just a quick note here, I want to clarify something. You guys have probably been listening to me this whole time and think that I haven't enjoyed my time with the game. That's actually not true. I actually have had a lot of fun despite how I've been joking about how disjointed this story feels. That being said, let's catch up to where I stopped playing and started working on this first impressions video. After the Kagura flashback scenes, it was pretty much just straight into the Rangifer fight. This fight was not as easy as the first time I fought him. He brings a few new moves and has a second phase. I believe it took me 5 to 6 tries to beat him, which isn't too bad. Overall, the game isn't too difficult. I've been playing on hard, and I don't really think they meant for the game to be that difficult anyway. That being said, after the final boss fight, there's a small cutscene, Straw Hat Guy and the lion plant creatures show up again, and then fade to black, and that's where I stopped playing for now. So I want to wrap up the video with a few of my thoughts summarized up to this point in the game. First, I think the game is fun. It's definitely not perfect, as you can tell throughout the video, but it's fun. I think that's truly the most important thing for games nowadays. Not every game needs to be a blockbuster, AAA, giant open world experience with extreme polish. That being said, Beast of Reincarnation is a little rough around the edges. I could definitely see a lot of people bouncing off this game, and that is totally fine. For me personally, I find the game enjoyable enough to keep playing. I do strongly feel like the story should have been told in a more chronological order though. I think that the Ku and Kagura flashbacks are pointless. I think that we should have just started with the Ku flashback where Emma's in the shack, done the tutorial, met up with Kagura and Brad, and then flash forward a few months later to hunting down Rangiford. While even then there can be some missing story tidbits, I do believe that the flashbacks are pointless and ultimately feel distracting and like they are interruptions. The game overall is graphically decent. I wouldn't say it will win any awards for originality or fidelity, but it's not ugly, and it's certainly to modern standards in my opinion. The sound design is a little dodgy. I think there could have been more emphasis on panging sounds when deflecting and slashing robots, and I also had some weird echoing in indoor locations when I had my Dolby surround sound software on. After turning it off though, the echoing was gone. The music is okay. I personally found it to be a bit generic and a bit of stealing homework from other female protagonist games set in a post-apocalyptic world. Games like Stellar Blade and its inspiration Nier Automata have very similar music themes to Beast of Reincarnation, and I think that the composer could have tried to be a bit more original. Also, I can't even remember if there was music during the boss fights, which is wild in my opinion. Despite all the things I pointed out in summary here, I will still continue my playthrough of Beast of Reincarnation for now. For me, as long as I'm having fun playing a game, I'll just keep playing it until it isn't fun anymore. Thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Drink some water, stay hydrated, and I will see you all in the next one.
Emma、傷は何ともないの？
平気。クーが助けてくれた。戦える。
どうしなきゃ。お前は本物なんじゃ。
感じる。クーの力。開花の力。感じる。クーが感じている感覚。